It's that time of the week again. It's Trader Chat, and it was an absolutely bumper weekend on the sporting front with the Masters Grand National, and I think one of the games of the season, one of the games of the ages, really, in what is a captivating Premier League title race. How did Star Sports get on, though? Had some very good offers in the National. If your horse finished, but didn't finish in the places, you got your money back up to a nifty. And the Masters as well, an absolute barrage of horses who were fancied in the race, finishing in the places behind Scottie Scheffler. Good morning, Flynn. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I'm just having a look at you, Johnny. You look a little bit sun-kissed this morning. Were you out in the sun at the weekend?
I was. I had a lovely weekend away. I went for a lovely walk yesterday, went for a long cycle on Saturday. And then I went for a walk around kind of Clogherhead Beach yesterday. So it was a lovely weekend.
Cool, lovely stuff. I equally had a good weekend. I was at Aintree on the Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Very long day on Saturday. You end up getting to the course about 8 in the morning. The last race at 6:20, and then a good old 3.5 hour drive home. So it was it was a long day, but it was worth it for all the fantastic racing we saw at the weekend. Like you just said, we had the race, we had the Masters, we had so much going on at the weekend. We had the football as well, so loads to get through. But I think the only place to start is the Grand National, Johnny.
Yeah, 50-1 winner. Obviously, the retiring dentist, Sam Whaley-Cohen, riding. Paul Byrne, my friend, actually sold this horse to Whaley-Cohen's not that long ago, but still described it as the best day of his career in terms of racing. I presume not many people backed him, but how about the places? Because, I mean, there were obviously any second now in Deltor had to be popular.
I know he's your pal, Johnny, but you can't be believing that, surely.
That's what he said. But, I mean, kind of hard.
I'd be pretty gutted, I think.
Yeah, I probably would.
Yeah, but there we go. So Noble Yeats, obviously a very good winner, actually. I mean, you couldn't pick much out in the form for Noble Yeats, but winning at 50-1, obviously as a bookmaker, is a fantastic result for us. Longhouse Poet and Annabelle Fly were the main losers in the office. That was detailed in Simon Knott's blog if you did read that. On course, it was all about any second now, so they wanted to be with the JP one, but looked like it was coming there to win the race, but just struggled to get home. Whereas Noble Yeats saw the trip out very, very well. I did just want to quickly mention condolences to Connections with Leclerc Surf and Discorama.
Yeah,
obviously not nice to see at all, and LA Bell as well, the Dan Skelton trained there, who also passed away earlier on in the card. So condolences to all Connections there. Not what we want to see at all. Just in terms of the Grand National, there were a lot of fallers and a lot of pulled up this year, which is a weird one because for the last few years it's not been too bad. But I just don't know whether they were going a quicker speed or whether it was just one of those races where it all just kind of comes together and there is just more trouble in running. But
yeah,
it was just one of those this year, wasn't it?
It was very disappointing because I think, as I said, last week, I think they've made good changes to the race, but it was one of those things, and sadly, it does obviously bring the welfare issue to the fore again. As for the race itself, what was the betting like? Was it as busy as ever? People back at Aintree, which is absolutely fantastic. Loads of fancied Irish runners, and obviously a 50-1 winner. But how lively was it at the track? How lively was it on the off course?
It was very, very lively, to be honest. I mean, the whole Aintree meeting was busy. It was a little bit quieter on the Thursday purely because of the weather. It absolutely lashed it down all day Thursday pretty much. It was pretty cold, but there were some proper punters around. There was the typical £2.5 each way punters, but there were £1,000 punters around. We'll get on to the other days in just a moment, but we did lay some proper bets, to be fair. And in terms of slippage on the Saturday, it was very busy in the office and it was very busy on the track as well. So that was really good to see, and fantastic punters out there. Like really nice people, the Liverpudlians. So really nice to see you guys out there, and the people that came up who read the blogs and watch Trader Chat. Thanks for coming to say hello as well. But best we can, I guess we can kind of get into the other days now, starting with the Thursday here, Johnny. For the first race that I want to talk about on the Thursday, Gin Online was the steamer in the opener, into 5-2 from 4-1, very well backed on course and in the office. But Miller's Bang was a terrific result, won really well around the 7-1 mark. We had a proper result in the juvenile race. This was probably the best betting race of the day on course. I laid 150,000 to 60, so 60 grand at 5-2 to a credit client on the track. That was about Brazil. So Brazil was never kind of in the frame. The two that went clear and quite a controversial ending, probably on talk about just a second, Johnny, around Pied Piper and Night Salute. I also laid 11 grand at 10-11, so 10,000 to 11 Pied Piper on course. So when the dead heat was announced, I was thinking, okay, not too bad. So that punter's done 500 quid, because this would return 10.5 grand. And then we've obviously kept the 60 on Brazil. But then the bing bong went, and then they turned the result around. What are your thoughts on this, Johnny? Obviously, they called the dead heat. Then they called the stewards' inquiry. Paddy Brennan went into the stewards and basically said that he thought that they both finished on their merits, but then they turned the result around.
Honestly, and I said this at the time, if I were the owner of Night Salute, I don't think Paddy Brennan would ever write for me again. I thought it was.
I agree. Yeah,
it was so wrong what he was saying. Now I was looking at the exchange market on the stewards' inquiry. As much as I don't really trust these stewards' inquiries to produce the correct result, if you have a dead heat and your horse was hampered at all at the last, which this horse was, and he lost, you come up with a figure or come up with a distance, but he lost somewhere between a neck and half a length, something like that anyway. And for Paddy Brennan to say that, it was minimal or non, it didn't really influence results. I thought he let his owner so badly down. And if they had, clung on to the dead heat, obviously the likes of Star Sports will be disappointed. But I think for the owner, as much as a dead heat is fine, you'll celebrate that. You're still talking about a substantial amount of money, and I thought it was ridiculous of Paddy Brennan, absolutely ridiculous. And the stewards, for me, had an open and shut case here, and it probably took longer than it should have for them to basically reverse the dead heat, which was what they did.
Well, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, I was speaking to Lofty about this, and we were in a good position on course. It was only ever going to either stay a dead heat or go in our favour. It was never going to be Piper declared the winner of the stewards' inquiry. But so we were sitting in quite a nice position, to be honest. But I just couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it when he did it on. It was on Alaphilippe at Cheltenham. He did a very similar thing, and a lot of people coming out saying, "No, fair enough to Paddy Brennan." And to be fair, in that case, I could probably understand it because there wasn't much interference. Whereas with this one, he has lost at least half a length at the second last.
Yeah, and for the Alaphilippe one, I don't want jockeys going into these inquiries and coming up with cock and bull stories about hampering that never happened. And I prefer if I owned the horse and Paddy Brennan said, as he did at Cheltenham, look, listen, being honest, it was, and an Alaphilippe was that was a 101 shot that was never going to get reversed. That's no problem. And I'm the owner. I'll have a drink with them afterwards. Not in this instance. So you're given, it's almost like you're the worst lawyer in history to go into this case and argue. And sometimes stewards' inquiries. I remember betting on a stewards' inquiry before. It was probably the best bet I've ever had. I was at the track, and I think it was at the race at the time. It was a race in Wexford. And there was a stewards' inquiry, but at the races went on to another race because it was a packed schedule, typical summer's night or whatever. But the stewards' inquiry, I was expecting it to be odds on to be reversed. And the betting on the exchanges opened up fours, went 5, 6, 7s, kept going out 10, 12 to 1, something like that. And ironically enough, I got a lift home, bizarrely, with one of the stewards who was involved in the stewards' inquiry. And he told me that day that I was not helped at all by the case made by the jockey, the jockey that I wanted to be given the actual result. And this can affect the outcome when the jockey, and I think it was an inexperienced jockey and you could forgive him. But I can't forgive Paddy Brennan for that if I were the owner at all.
Yeah, no, look, I'd be in exactly the same camp as you. I just can't believe he kind of came across in that way. And just to say that just because a jockey says something when they're going against the grain and it's not going to benefit them by saying it, doesn't mean it's right. So when people are coming out saying, how have the stewards gone against that decision? Even Paddy Brennan said it. But well, hang on, just use your eyes for a minute here. He's lost distance at the last. Okay, he's had time to get by after them, but he's lost distance there. Piper's come across him and he has cost him some distance. And then they've called a dead heat. If it was a neck, I could see them probably not turning it around. And if Piper was in front, etc. But because it was a dead heat, he has lost distance. Therefore, any distance gained would mean that Night Salute would have won. So that's how I would come across it from the race. And yeah, I couldn't believe the way that Paddy Brennan was coming across. But just because the jockey is saying something and they're going against the grain doesn't mean they're always right. But in our favour for that one anyway, Johnny. But quite a good little discussion on that. On it, to be fair. But that was the juvenile hurdle, so a very eventful way to kind of start the meeting. Moving on to where Protectorat was running, I can't remember the name of the race off the top of my head. Is it the Bowl?
The Bowl. So Protectorat, obviously, he kind of looked at one stage. Yeah, this horse is going to get involved. He ends up running a shocker. Conflated rallies really gamely. Clanders over. I'm sure he was 101 after last. He was paddling a bit at the line.
He certainly was. It was a good result in the office, and it was just fine on track. We laid 5,000 on Protectorat at 5-2. So very good bet laid on him then. So we're happy to keep that in the hod. We were cash rich after those first couple of races, which we were very happy to see to start the meeting. Epatante was a loser in the book, as you would imagine, in the race after that. And then in the race over the national fences in the Fox Hunters, Lofty laid David Maxwell again. He always wants to be against David Maxwell in these races. He was very close to coming unstuck in this one as well. We came unstuck on Dalton Square at Cheltenham, and we almost came unstuck here. But late night pass to Bridget Andrews was just a bit more game. I'm not sure that David Maxwell's mount very much wanted to finish out that race the same way that late night pass did. It wasn't the best result in the office, but it was a good result on course, and it meant that after the first day we were well in front, Johnny, which was good to see for a change of one of these big festivals.
Beautiful. I'm just trying to remember now. So on to the Friday, the middle leg of the festival at Aintree, and we started off here with Langer Dan, hurdle, and then John Bon and El Fabiola. Terrific race in the novice hurdle.
It certainly was. So Langer Dan got his well-deserved victory after being brought down at Cheltenham. He was kind of laid out for that one, dropped by the handicapper, which we spoke about, to a mark of 1:37. And Julie Hacks up here. He was hard to lay on track, weirdly, and we actually laid Broomfield Berg. I laid a 10,000 to 1 Broomfield Berg win only. So decent result for us there. And then in the John Bon race, I laid an even £9,000 John Bon. Obviously very well backed in the office as well. I laid a 12,000 to 1 each way surprise package. So we got away with one there, even though we did lay that even £9,000. It could have been a lot worse. The main reason being that one of the commission agents in the ring was told to back it if it went to evens, John Bon.
Right.
And they would typically bet it with us. The same guys that bet Brazil. So when they were going to bet this, the commission agent didn't have signal. So I couldn't actually confirm the bet with the guys that wanted to place the bet, which meant that we didn't end up laying John Bon. So we probably got away with one there, I would imagine, on John Bon.
He was a small lucky as well, to be honest, to win the race.
He was. I haven't watched it back, but he did look beat for a second. But I would imagine that the one in blinkers, El Fabiano, probably isn't the most genuine, potentially. Hence why the blinkers are on, and he just didn't want to go past. I thought if he wanted to go past, he could have. So that was that race. Ahoy Senor was a fantastic result in the office in the next race, and a really good result on course. All the money was for Brave Man's Game. I actually really fancied Fury Road there. I thought he ran a blinder.
He ran a blinder. This is one of the reasons that Aintree as a festival doesn't really do it for me. You've just performances like this from Brave Man's Game that just, they happen year after year after year. Protectorate was similar. There's no way they should be run anything like as badly as this. But it is just a, you know, it's a long season. They're trained for Cheltenham, and some horses just flop, and that's how it is.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, Brave Man's Game didn't even run at Cheltenham, did he? I saw Paul Nicholls came out afterwards and said he probably left his race not running in there. Like, you can't have it every which way. He was meant to be fresh for this, but a really poor run from him. I think Long Press will come back better last year, or maybe some worse ground as opposed to what he faced at Aintree on this day. For Kia Derry was a bad result in the office, you could imagine. And on course was a small loser as well. And then Mac Totti was a good winner off the Topham. A poor result on track and also in the office. And Mr. Coffee was madly well back for this, into 5 to 1, and was a loser on course. He's just a mad horse to be backing into that sort of price, especially in this sort of race. He's just a bit of a dodgeball, I think, Mr. Coffee.
Yeah, and another horse obviously well back to absolutely flopped. And that brings us on then to the Saturday. And obviously the main race here was the 50 to 1 victory of Samuel Lee Cohen's mount for Emma Mullins in the big race. And we also had Three Stripe Life, who I thought produced some really, really nice performance in the novice hurdle, typically leading light, found plenty for pressure. Florin Porter, that must have been a flooring result for punters. How could you fancy Sire de Burley? Shan, very disappointed in third.
Yeah, so just going through in chronological order. So the first race on course, I laid an 18,000 to 4, so £4,000 win only at 9 to 2 on Winter Fog. So a great result there with Party Business winning. If you remember rightly, Johnny, Party Business was a horse that in the Martin Pipe at Cheltenham, we laid 100,000 to 3 each way. So £3,000 each way at 33 to 1 with the fractions to return 100,000. So they really fancied it that day. It was hampered by Langer Dan, and then it finished with a wet sail for 5th that day. Was really unlucky. And it got a great ride this day. Was under the pump most of the way, but actually won going away in the end. So Party Business got the job done there, and we got the money on Winter Fog. The 225 was marred by the Death Valley Bell, as mentioned earlier, and condolences connections there. Free Strike Live was a better result than the bogey Walking on Air. That was the one that they wanted to be with, was Walking on Air for Nicky Henderson. But Free Strike Live under Davy Russell. And it's good to see Davy getting a decent winner here, because he kind of struggled a little bit at Cheltenham, obviously being on Tiger Roll. Galvin didn't do the business in the Gold Cup. So good to see Davy having a good day of it here with Gordon as well. No big bets on Edwardstone on course, weirdly. We've really struggled to lay Edwardstone. I thought it would be quite easy to say, but we really struggled. I was very surprised when he was beat as well by Gentleman Denis at 7-2. But it's quite a smart performance by the winner, do you think, Johnny?
It was, yeah. He's really turned it around since they kind of changed the tactics on him. It's really suited him. And yeah, I don't think Edwardstone's had a long year. He's been an unbelievable horse. I don't think he had any real excuses. And 7-2, 4-1 is probably a slightly surprisingly big SP for Gentleman to me.
Yeah, possibly. When you look at the actual formula race, I mean, Edwardstone still beating third time lucky 11 lengths, and that's probably not too dissimilar to what he did at Cheltenham.
How could you fancy third time lucky at this stage to beat him? Like, so, you know, you're getting the one horse that actually probably can beat him.
Yeah, true. I do think that some horses, I mean, not this one in this case, obviously, but I do think that some horses are falsely priced when it's just when they're the only unknown. I feel like sometimes they can just be overbet completely. But in this case, it's probably a good thing to do. I think it's probably quite a good performance by the winner when you look at the fact that Edwardstone still being third time lucky, 11 lengths for pleasure, etc. So he may not have underperformed. It may just be the fact that the winner is pretty good. The 3:35, the Liverpool hurdle, side of Burley getting a job done here. We did lay one of the Mulvaney boys, I think, had a little bit of side of Burley. So well done to him, obviously copping the 16-1 about side of Burley here. Florian Porter was well backed into 11-8. He was the loser in the book, so obviously a decent result getting side of Burley to go in here, and it was actually a decent result in the offers as well. So that was the Saturday, that was Aintree, and we actually had a very good Aintree. So pleased to report from a bookmaker side of things, not for you punters, but for bookmakers, it was nice for us to have a decent time of it after having a pretty torrid Cheltenham, to be honest. So good to get it back towards the end of the National Hunt season, and it's all over to the flat now.
It is all over to the flat. We'll briefly talk racing in the show. Let's get to golf, though. I think I tipped Rory McIlroy here last week, who actually performed very well. He was a sort of a 12, 14, 16-1 poke, but just 9 players out of 91 out of 91 have finished this tournament under par. All the right faces make up the places as well. This is a monumental piece of form from Sheff. This is a tweet from Michael Bertie, and he gives his notional starting prices for the Masters. And basically, if Sheff, McIlroy, Lowry, Smiths, Morikawa, Zalatoris, Connors, Thomas, and a lot of these placed runners basically were somewhat fancied.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that when you're getting the extra places on offer, we were 8 places at 5th, which is very fair. Towards the head of the market, you are getting value on the place. When you go to the bigger priced ones, you are playing a little bit away from the win part on Betfair, and you are going to be have an edge on the place, but you're giving a fair amount away on the win. Whereas if you're betting ones towards the head of the market, they tend to be pretty tight. JT was around 12, 14 to 1. I think he was about 15 on Betfair, and runners like that. So playing towards the head of the market in these events with the extra places with the majors isn't the worst play in the world. In terms of a result for us, Scottie Scheffler was a very poor result. The main reason being that because he went short in running quite early on, punters wanted to be with him. So those in running punters, when he was around 4-1, when he was around even money, even 3-10, we laid a decent lump of 3-10. So, so punters wanted to be with Scottie Scheffler in the run mainly, and was a loser before as well. JT was the second worst result in the book, but nowhere near as bad as the winner. For Scottie Scheffler, it looks a little bit shaky in the last round, but the huge chipping on hole 3 just calmed the nerves. And Cameron Smith didn't play his best stuff, and it was pretty much a match from the get-go until Rory got involved very late on. As you just mentioned, your selection, Rory McIlroy played very well. Obviously finished second by himself. Of the 4 selections that I gave, which were Cameron Smith, JT, Corey Connors, and Siwoo Kim, JT had half a place because he finished tied 8th. And then you got a full place on Cameron Smith and a full place on Corey Connors. So not a bad line of tipping on the golf from us two there, Johnny, but a poor result for us in the book, unfortunately.
Okay, let's get to football now. I thought it was a really terrific game between Man City and Liverpool. I think it might have been one of those days where I know in general layers love the draw. I presume some people did back the draw here. It looked like a very, very feasible result. What a game.
It was the draw was a very good result for us here, to be fair. It was all about Liverpool pre-match around the 11 score. Liverpool were very big losers for us, so we were happy enough for the draw.
What price are you laying?
What's that?
What price are you laying Liverpool?
I think they're 11-4 as I looked earlier on. I'm sure they're around the 11-4 mark.
I guess that's kind of like Liverpool have more need to win the game. I presume that's where the angle was. And in fairness, they could have won the game. I think a draw was a reasonably fair result.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look here. You've got like a 10 grand 11-4. You've got 10 grand 11-4. So there's a few good 11-4 bets in there. So they're a very big loser for us, Liverpool, in the match. So we were pretty happy to see the draw there. In terms of how we look now for the title race, City have shortened enough back bit because their running is so much easier than Liverpool's. Or I say so much easier, but definitely easier. City are into 2-5, Liverpool 15-8, and then obviously your 500 bar. So it's a 2-horse race, 2-5 City, 15-8 Liverpool. Some changes in the top 4 market with Spurs going short now. I hate to say it. Spurs have gone very short here. 4 on now. Arsenal out to 2-1. United 20-1, and then West Ham 50-1. So could do with Brighton doing a job on Spurs this week, the same way that they did the job on us last week.
Yeah, it wasn't a good weekend for the Gunners, but the title race at the very least, the title race at the very least is still on, and there was something to talk about between now and the end of the season. This week, we've the Snooker World Championship starting in Sheffield. Reminds me of going over there to watch it one time with another degenerate, and it was actually, in fairness, big into snooker. I'm not, but I was like, well, this is something different. So we decided we'd go to a bags meeting in Sheffield, like 11 o'clock start, something like that. Turned up at the bags, and there was Tony Enzo, like just happened to be at the bags meeting. He's like, I was kind of in town, so I said I'd go to a bags meeting. Great days.
God, it does sound like a good laugh, actually. Right, in terms of the World Championship Snooker at the Crucible, we bet Neil Robson's your 4-1 favourite, 5-1 Judd Trump, 6-1 Ronnie O'Sullivan, 8-1 Mark Selby, and 10-1 Higgins, then your 16 bar. I've been speaking to JB this morning, so I'm not the biggest snooker fan in the world, and I've got my notes here. So it's a very open World Championship this year, I've been told, much more open than recent years. We're top price, the top 3 in the market to reflect that. So 4-1 Robson, 5-1 Trump, and 6-1 Ronnie O'Sullivan. We're also running our final frame offer. So if your match goes to a deciding frame and you lose the deciding frame, you'll get your money back as a free bet up to 50 quid. So something to get involved in there. I believe it starts Saturday, goes on for 2 weeks. We actually see quite a lot of action on the snooker, especially in play. It's a big in play running sport, frame winners, and on the handicaps as well. So do check it out. We'll be betting in play. We'll have all the matches. We'll obviously have all the usual specials and all that gear up for the snooker that starts on Saturday. But that would be the kind of main thing that we've got going on this week. We do have some decent racing. We've got some good midweek racing. We've got the Neil Quinn over from Newmarket. The flat is back. And we have some racing from Cheltenham as well. We'll be standing on track. I won't be personally, but Lofty and Ed will be there. Simon will be doing the on-course vlogs as well from Cheltenham. That's on, I think, Wednesday and Thursday. Newmarket throughout the week. And then we've got the Greenham at the weekend. And we've got the Queen's Cup from Musselburgh, along with plenty of football as well. So loads going on this week, Johnny, albeit probably not top class action, but still some good stuff going on.
Thanks a million, Flynn. And we got through a lot there. Obviously, the Masters, the National, and the one of the big betting heats of the Premier League, and one of the biggest games we've had in a long time. And that was Trader Chat with Star Sports. And we shall be back next week.